Okay, welcome everybody. This is our November, I'll say Thanksgiving holiday ladies who lunch conversation, and our very special guest today is Meera Mehta. So you can see her here. Thank you. Welcome for coming. And we give our thanks. We give a lot of gratitude, and today is very special for a number of reasons. It's the first time that I'm not doing the interview and the conversation at our tablescape. It's in our little modest library. And as Cicero said, if you have a garden and you have a library, that's all you need. And indeed, that is the way I feel. And Meera is special because she works with books. So you can see all the books behind her. And I'm guessing that's your home library also?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a little bit about Mira's her bio because I read about her in I'll say traditional legacy media, and immediately I felt awe of some of the things that she's doing. So it's the first time, as I said, doing it not at the table but here, but it's also the first time that we have such a young person, such a person who can inspire us so much. Usually the accomplishments and inspiration come much later in life, I dare say. So Meera is a rising senior at Glen Ridge High School in the Garden State in New Jersey, and she founded an organization called Novel Futures. Love the wordplay, to support students most at risk of falling behind in reading. What began as a freshman year book drive grew into a larger mission after she saw how many children, especially those from marginalized communities, struggled with reading. A challenge worsened by the pandemic, of course. And since then, she has collected over 63,000 donations and distributing books through partner organizations statewide. So, cheers to you just for that accomplishment is
Thank you.
incredible. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Meera was inspired by her experience at the Iowa Young Writers Studio and the Kelly Writers House at the University of Pennsylvania. Meera has also hosted free writing workshops to spark creativity among young writers. Wish I had had you when I was starting off. She additionally developed a bookfinder tool to help kids discover stories that reflect diverse voices, and we need that ever more today. So I'm going to hold up the cover of Mira's book that you can see, and I don't know if we can like zoom in a little bit here. So it's the Heritage, right? Get it? Heritage Rising. It's 25 extraordinary Americans shaping the future. So that's I have to say, I too am an author. So for those of you who don't know me, so this is one of my books, The Art of the Garnish. It's all about, cocktails and their glamorous garnishes. I contributed a number of chapters to Savoring Gotham. There's 3 chapters in there, everything from green markets to the ladies who lunch. That's how we got its name. This textbook, Public Garden Management, and my Hamptons and Long Island homegrown cookbook. So you could see why I was in great simpatico with Mira and her lofty ambitions and goals and success to date. So beyond the novel futures, Mira is a managing editor of her school newspaper. She leads the Feminist Club, yay, plays varsity tennis, and remains deeply committed to expanding literacy access for all children. So she's lived like 3 lifetimes. Has anyone ever told you you're an old soul?
No, but thank you.
No, I think that. So to come to this point in time, I have to say, what really sparked your inspiration to start this? I mean, you have a call to action that's almost unrivaled, let's say, right? So
Mhm.
how did it come about? Tell us your little story here.
Sure. So honestly, Novel Futures started in the simplest way possible. It just started as one little book drive during the pandemic. I wasn't trying to start an organization at first, but I just really wanted to do something helpful while everything felt uncertain. The drive went really well, and when I started researching a little bit more, I came across data showing that post COVID literacy rates for kids in New Jersey had dropped by around 8%. So that number really stuck with me, and it felt really personal because I've always loved reading, and I couldn't imagine kids losing access to something so fundamental.
Mhm.
And that's really what pushed me to turn this from a one time project into something bigger. I created Novel Futures with the initial idea of simply collecting and donating books. But our first and biggest partner has been Book Smiles, which distributes books to schools and programs around the state. And they've been so incredible to work with and really helped us scale.
Did they
Um,
come to you or did you seek them out?
I believe I seeked them out when I was starting initially, but now they have a truck that comes here to Glen Ridge to help me collect and pick up all the books that we are getting.
That's wonderful. I was going to ask you later, but now seems like a good time. Like, have you thought about reaching out to some of the technologies like Google or, Meta or some of those with, or, even some of the book clubs, whether
Yeah,
it's,
I mean, that would be amazing. I've definitely thought about it. I definitely want to take this to more of an international or national scale in the
yeah,
future.
yeah.
So definitely, I would love to do something like that.
And I read about they're amenable to those kinds of things, and you're like the perfect candidate to collaborate with, I think.
Yeah, thank you.
Did
Um,
you have to put together a team? Did your family or your classmates say, that's a good idea, but honestly, how are we
yeah,
going to do it?
So in terms of support, I was really lucky because most of my friends jumped in right away. A lot of them helped with sorting and organizing and helping me with the pickup and drop off runs since I'm usually going around town to collect the books as well. And a lot of high school clubs like Key Club and Community Service Club also became a huge help when I needed volunteers for bigger drives. And on the community side of how I'm getting the books, I really leaned into local Facebook groups, which was surprisingly
Wow.
effective because people in my town and neighboring towns seem to always have shelves full of books, especially since there's a lot of little kids here. Once they outgrow the books, they need somewhere to go.
Yeah.
So um, the donations just really started rolling in. And I think once people understood the mission of making reading accessible, fun, and diverse, they were really excited to be a part of it.
I'm going to put this up now, but people can also, I'll put it up later. But if they want to donate, right, you can go to your website and they'll find out information's there. So I think that is critically important. I mean, who
Yeah,
knew that
thank
we would have to be doing, yeah, we'll come back to that. So, so you started off small and then you start to scale up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Novel Futures didn't really just stop at the books either. I started thinking about how to reach kids who might not have easy access to in-person programs, and that's when online literacy tools came in. I
Mhm.
created a diverse bookfinder, which is basically a curated database, which is organized by into categories like ethnicity, gender, and different themes and genres to help kids and parents discover books that reflect different identities and experiences. And I also started hosting free writing workshops, and I've done them at my local library, at school, and I even partnered with a Girl Scout troop. And one of my favorite parts has been developing the Story Explorers workbook, which is available online for kids to access to practice creative writing and build more confidence in writing.
I saw that. So, those of you who are watching, if you're intrigued for your own family, or if you're an educator, to go there and you'll find, all the tools really readily accessible. Is that where your book is found also online on your website? So, to be able to get that, is there a cost to the book?
No, if you want to view it on my website, it is totally free.
So great. We need to start charging for these things, Meera, so you can get more money for those kind of things. But when you offer this bookfinder, which I think is just fantastic, and just making books much easier for everyone, but in this era of sort of controversy about different kinds of books and authors and things, I know the authors are feeling some pressure. So have you felt any of that, or is there any uh, have you been approached by anyone to say don't offer these kinds of books?
I haven't been approached by anyone, but I definitely see where you're coming from. I have not experienced that yet, and hopefully I won't. But I do think it's really important to showcase as
Yes.
many diverse authors and perspectives as possible to just really get a wide range of perspectives and to just open kids up to new ideas.
Of course. I mean, obviously I'm much older than you, but when I grew up, we didn't have such diversity voices to learn from.
Mhm.
And if you love learning, I call myself a philomath on all of my social media because I just love to learn. But if you want to learn about others, how can you do that without reading about them? So I just do not understand this, overreaction to, living in these vertical silos where you put the blinders on. So good for you. But I have to ask, how do you determine the books that you recommend that, celebrates these, diverse perspectives and inclusivity?
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time researching when I first created this bookfinder. I went on a lot of different sites and just researched like what are the most popular children's authors, children's books, and then I looked into more diverse themes. I was like, which of these books shows Asian American stories, or might show
Mhm,
Black history or girl
mhm.
stories, and then I started compiling and curating a list. And then once I had my list, I went in and made this bookbinder.
And now, do you get pitched by different publishers to say, please showcase my books? I mean, if you don't, I can only imagine that that's imminent.
Yeah, I have not yet, but that is something I would really love to do. So I'm trying to work on promoting this bookbinder more so I can make something like that happen soon.
Yeah, so maybe offline I have some ideas to share with you. Being an author and doing a lot of book reviews, I get sent books to do that. So,
Oh,
um,
that's
yeah,
exciting.
yeah, that would be, I think, great. So, and if anyone else, watching has any ideas or networking connections, please feel free to write in. So I don't know if you've covered this yet, but I wanted to ask, tell us about your story studio and how you encourage students to write, especially in an era of AI. As an example, we were having dinner and one of the women there with us is a teacher, and she
Mhm.
was a little cranky perhaps, but she was talking about how students overuse, misuse AI, and don't really read even the material, you know, for the classes. So how do you get them to this and then tell us about the story studio?
Yeah, sure. I personally believe that writing is such a fundamental skill and tool that you really shouldn't be using AI for that. AI is definitely also a very helpful tool, but it if everyone is using AI to write, then all the writing is going to sound the same. So I feel like writing is really important to get your own voice, your own perspective, and I think that's so fundamental and important. And specifically at my story studios, most of the kids I've worked with are about fourth grade and under. So it hasn't really been an issue. And I feel like
Mm,
all the kids who've come are eager to write and read and learn. However, I also think that encouraging the kids to just really share their own voices and their own perspectives makes them more eager to want to write rather than just giving them like a plain assignment and being like, here, write this, which might prompt them to use AI.
yeah, I think you're right. They like to tell their own stories. So
Yeah, definitely.
maybe you could also detail this Story Explorer's notebook and how you develop that. And then what do teachers say when they see your material? Do they have a sense of ownership about, this some so-called curriculum, or is it not
Um,
important?
yeah, so I developed the Story Explorers workbook because I just wanted to give kids a place and like a space to create their stories. And I also, for each story, I kind of outlined what they should be thinking about sentence by sentence, especially for the younger
Mm,
kids who might need a little more structure. So, some examples in the Story Explorers workbook are like write about a special day, write about your favorite meal ever, write about your dream adventure.
mhm,
And I really think that this is important to get kids to really like start reflecting on their own experiences, even being kids, they're young, but everyone has an experience to tell. So I think this was really important to include in the book.
mhm.
And yeah, it's really great to have during the workshops as well because it provides some structure for the children. So
How did you learn to teach writing? I mean, it's an art form, and I have had some writing teachers, and I take writing classes all the time and belong to authors groups and so on. But some are better than others. Some teach from personal experience. Some are just good writers and really shouldn't be teachers. So I think that's probably truism across education in general. But how did you, at such an early age, also come to learn how to teach?
Well, I never officially learned how to teach, but I have always really loved my English classes in high school. And 2 summers ago, I did the Iowa Writers Young Workshop over the summer. And that was such an amazing workshop. I spent about 6 weeks writing different pieces and critiquing peers' work. So I feel like
Mhm.
that really got me in the state of writing and learning how to critique and just overall being a better writer. And then this past summer, I did the Kelly Writers House summer workshop. And that was such an amazing experience. We were writing from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, and then we would go home and write some more. So that was really such a great experience. And yeah, and I feel like having those
Mm.
writing experiences was such a great tool and resource because I was able to pull ideas that the teachers from those programs used on high schoolers. And I kind of modified them a bit to try and use for younger kids.
So what I hear you saying is that you had such positive experiences yourself that you were able to borrow or glean from them and then
Yeah.
pass that on. And if it doesn't work, you sort of modify by your students or
Yeah.
classes themselves. Yeah.
For example, this past summer at my writers workshop at Kelly Writers House, I remember we did an activity called I Remember. Actually, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but yeah, it was called I Remember, and so we all went around and shared different like I remembers from the summer and about our
Mhm.
personal lives, and I thought that that was so unique and interesting, even though it's so kind of obvious in a way, like, "Oh, I remember this." We always say, "I remember," but in
Mhm.
reality, that's really showing the amount of experiences we've had. So I applied that to one of my workshops this summer, and I started having kids talk about what they remember from the summer, and some of the stories were silly, some of them were more funny, but, it was just really cool to hear what they had to say.
I think so too. And it has them sort of invested, sort of in the process. Um, I have to ask also, have you ever had any of Uh, well, first I want to ask, do you enjoy writing yourself? I mean, it seems like you have such a passion for it, but and do you write every day? What's your writing schedule?
Yeah, I love writing. I'm not able to write every day, unfortunately, because I'm so busy, but I try to write at least 4 to 5 times a week if I can.
Mm.
Um, and I don't really have a set schedule, it's kind of what I feel like writing. I'm part of my school's, newspaper and literary magazine, as well as, like, the I don't know if I mentioned this, but the She Knows Gen Z Council, which is an online, media platform, so, I really love writing journalistic pieces and op-eds, so, that's something I really enjoy working on, whether it's for one of those clubs, and I also really like working on more memoir-y pieces as well.
Mm.
So that's more of what I'd like to write in my free time as well, so
Maybe it'll be doing your first memoir soon. I think that's where I first read about you, maybe on She Knows. I used to write for them also.
Oh,
And when I used to write the Examiner, now I just have my Garden Glamour blog and do everything from there. But yeah, so I could see. I mean, I try to have a schedule. Also, I'm always writing, but I am writing a novel and a children's book on the side. But it is difficult to get the time to do it. Famous writers will say they need everything and in a certain way, or they have to be alone, or in the old days, like the Hemingways, they'd have to be drinking or something to do it. But now, the writing teachers I have say it's a job, and you have to just put your mind to it and write, you know?
yeah, I feel like for me, it really depends on what I'm writing. Like, when I was writing Heritage Rising, that I did make a schedule for just because that was a lot more structured.
Mm.
But when I am writing more freely, like memoir, I just do it when I'm in the mood and can really focus
In
and
the mood, yeah. So when you wrote you say heritage, right? Not her-itage.
It's like Her-Itage,
Yeah.
yeah, I said
Yeah,
it
I like
correctly.
that play on words too. Novel future. Very good with words, obviously. So how did you come about to write that book? What inspired that? And did you interview, I mean, obviously you couldn't interview some of the people, but how did you go about that? I mean, I read, but if you can tell the viewers.
Yeah, sure. So I wrote Heritage Rising, which is right here actually, which highlights 25 modern American women changemakers. And what motivates me the most about them is that they don't fit the narrow, stereotypical ideas of what an American woman is supposed to be. I feel like each of them challenges expectations in their own way, whether through her work, her identity, or the barriers that they've had to push past. And writing their stories has taught me that inspiration isn't really about perfection or fame, but
Yeah.
about people who quietly or boldly reshape what's possible. And I also wanted to focus on women who aren't as well known. Like some of these women are very famous, but I didn't want to include like a Taylor Swift in here or a Kamala Harris. I wanted to focus more on women who've made very significant impacts, but aren't as spoken about.
Just name make three or four that are included.
We have Mona Hanna, Tony Bradinger, and Rebecca Coakley.
Okay. So, given the books and the online and everything that you're doing, the writing workshops, do you have a sense that you're creating a new community? And if so, how do you go about getting a sense of creating community or just tapping into something that you think was maybe underdeveloped?
Yeah, sure. So I feel like I am creating a sense of community, or I would hope so, especially locally. So if we want to go back to books and novel futures, I already talked about Book Smiles, but that's more of the whole state of New Jersey. I've expanded novel futures more locally as well with by partnering with the Human Needs Pantry, the Montclair Childhood Development Center, and I run more local book drives so kids in our more local community could have access to books they actually want to read. And as well as the community who's donating books as well.
Mhm.
I'm really grateful that I have so many members in Glen Ridge and Montclair who have so many books and are eager to donate so many books. And in the writing workshops I've done with the kids, it's also just been so amazing
Mm,
because I'm it's a one-time writing workshop for like most of the kids. Some of them do end up coming back, but
I bet.
each community is like it's a one-time workshop, but I feel like even in that 1 hour, 2 hour workshop, I feel like the kids are getting closer together by reading each other's
Yeah,
stories.
changes their life. I see you doing an ongoing series in the future for sure.
Yeah.
Do you then also recommend other organizations, for the students or your classes to follow? So say, well, this is a one-time workshop, but to keep this up, you should do what?
Yeah, so I tell them they're always welcome to come back to my workshop. Some of them have come back to my workshops, and we don't normally do the stories explore workshop like the workbook while we're in the workshop. I usually have other prompts I do with them, so then they can continue working on their writing with that workbook.
And then that's different from the showcase, or is that the big finale, the studio showcase?
You mean the bookfinder?
It says the story studio showcase that
Sorry. The Story Studio Showcase is where if I have the kids' permission and they're proud of their work, I'll take a picture of it usually and I'll publish it on our website so the kids
nice.
can
Yeah.
have their work up on
And I guess,
yours.
well, they're young enough, but I was gonna say share on their social media. So when you
Yeah.
just when you discovered, got to after your research on the real reason why that I read is like teens aren't reading. Is it because of a lack of books or is it a lack of interest or
Yeah, I have so many thoughts on this, but my so since I've been doing novel futures, I feel like my perception of teen reading has changed a lot.
Mm,
Before launching it, I kind of assumed that the issue was just that teens didn't really like reading anymore. But the more I paid attention, both in my own school and with the students I've worked with, the more I've realized that that's not really the problem. For
Mhm.
younger kids, I feel like it might be a little bit different, but in my high school, for example, every morning at 8 a.m., everyone is either scrolling on TikTok or checking Snapchat before school starts. You'll almost never see someone casually reading a book. And I feel like it's not because teens don't enjoy stories, but I feel like because reading feels almost like incompatible with the pace of our lives,
Yes.
especially in high school. Like between like AP classes, sports, extracurriculars, part-time jobs, college jobs, like the list goes on. Feel like sitting down to actually read a novel is sometimes a luxury, and our attention is pulled in 100 different directions. And we're so used to consuming content in 15 to 30-second bursts that reading can sometimes feel a lot longer and take stamina that most of us haven't been asked to build in years.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've read that too. And then it seems like, I want to say it's all because of you, but there is a burgeoning desire to slow down. You know, one of my friends, I'll say she wrote a book about this too called Slow Down. But yeah, teens in particular, I read that they're not craving so much the fast pace, and that there is a yearning to be transported to other places and to other worlds that only reading can do, or audiobook. I mean, that's not cheating to have an audiobook.
Yeah. Actually, I'm taking AP Literature right now, and I think something my AP Lit teacher is doing is so great. But each week, usually on Friday, he gives us a full class period to read anything we want. Like
Mm.
no quiz, no assignment, just a full 40 minutes of quiet and reading. And I feel like for some people, especially some of my friends, that's the only uninterrupted time that they'll get a week to read. And you can actually see their focus shifting over time because we've been doing this in September. So I feel like it proves that when we create space for reading, like teens will want to read, but
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
busy.
I think it becomes compelling. And then, you know, the other extreme in a way is that I know from being in the, book world as an author, and a lot of the publishers now, they're gearing so much of even their marketing to teens on TikTok because they celebrate the books, with their crying or with their emotions, whatever. But nevertheless, it shows an attention to the books. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Um, I feel like uh, when teens get to choose books that they're actually interested in, it's really beneficial. Um, Like, I think that it's the biggest way to make reading feel more enjoyable and personal instead of like an obligation. And I feel like when you give someone the choice to read what they want, rather than saying you have to read this, they're much more likely to pick up a book and stay engaged.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm of mixed mind. I totally agree that, people, teens, children included, should be able to read, and there's much more to read. But then when you're building a democratic society, how do we teach the basics of civics or our shared history? Like,
Yeah.
shouldn't we have to read, and then some of the classics? And, the debate goes on way past, this video cast, but, people do need to read some things that they initially may not like. I mean, not a lot of people like Jane Austen, but
Mhm.
Shakespeare, same thing. So, I mean, you have to read certain things, no?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I feel like there are certain books that everyone should encounter at least once, especially in school. I feel like The Catcher in the Rye or Night
Mhm.
were, for example, teach historical context, empathy, and critical thinking in a way that feels really important to our generation. And
Yeah.
I feel like they help us understand the world and each other better, especially when analyzing them as a class. So I feel like some books definitely should be required by the school or just required to read because they really are educational. But I really like what my AP Lit teacher is doing in that sense because he is giving us required reading, but at the same time, he's letting us have space to read what we choose.
Yeah, I like that too, to have both its choices. So
Mhm.
speaking of choices, I have to ask, what's on your nightstand now?
Yeah. Right now, I'm reading Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis.
I
Um,
love that book.
yeah, I'm not too far in right now, but I picked it up after hearing so many people talk about it and how it's such a good book. And I feel like it's definitely living up to the hype so far. And I feel like it definitely shows feminism in a way that's not super heavy. It definitely is, but I love the way Bonnie Garmis writes about it.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah.
Especially for that time period, I thought that was great. I've never seen I understand there's a series or a show. I've never seen that, but the book was just a delightful surprise for me. I loved it. To be a scientist that way, that I thought, and the cooking, it sort of comes into
Oh
it
yeah.
as chemistry. So, um, so before I ask my next question about a book, I'll flip back to ask I mean, with all your accomplishments, what do your friends say about you when they're
Oh,
describing?
I would say I don't really no, I would say they think that Novel Futures is a great organization and that the book was also a great initiative. I feel like they've also really helped out with Novel Futures with helping me organize or helping me pick up books around town. And I feel like they're really able to see the impact of it as well. Um, and then I told them about the book, and they also think that that was a really great initiative because
Mhm.
they didn't know all the people in the book, and I feel like they were really interested in learning about them
Yeah,
because they're women they've made such great impacts and accomplishments in America, but they're not always talked about. Some of them are, but some of them aren't.
yeah.
So they were really glad to be educated about them.
So to be learned. It's nice to have their support too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really grateful. They're such lovely people.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes people can get jealous or snarky or whatever. But how do you then balance you know, all your curricular activities, your home life, and so on?
Yeah. So I feel like I balance school activities and like spending time with my family. It's definitely something I'm still learning as I go, but I've tried to figure out like a rhythm that works for me. I'll try to be really intentional about planning out my week, which is usually on Sunday. And I'll look at like what assignments are coming up, what events, meetings I have, what tests I have, and then I'll see where I can fit in all my different extracurriculars and activities without feeling too overwhelmed.
Mhm.
So for example, like if I know I have a really heavy school day or if I have a lot of tests, I won't schedule a workshop for the previous afternoon.
Yeah.
Um, and when I'm working on something, whether it's homework or planning a book drive, I try to be really focused so I can get it done efficiently. And family time is also really important to me. So I try and make sure I'm present when I'm home, even if it's something simple like eating dinner together or catching up about our day when my parents get home from work. And yeah, I mean, I realize that balance isn't always about having equal time for everything, but
Right.
making sure that the things that matter most in a day actually have space in my life.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've learned to give myself some grace too because sometimes my life can get really busy. Some weeks are busier than others, and I feel like that's okay. And I found that communicating, staying organized, and being flexible helps me juggle everything without feeling burnt out.
Oh, that's such wise advice. See, I told you you're an old soul, so you've been around, you know this, from others. What would your parents, when they're just busting their buttons about you, what do they tell people?
I think they talk the same way my friends would. I think that a lot of their friends have also helped donate books or have, helped spread word about Novel Futures in the organization. So
Mhm.
again, they can kind of see that it's a community effort as well.
Oh, that's so nice. Gosh, if you were my daughter, I'd be like taking out posters and billboards and things. It's very exciting. Do you have a favorite novel?
Ooh, I would say that my favorite novel is probably Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. Um,
Say it again. Crying in H Mart?
yes. Have you read it?
No, that's why I'm taking it down by your
Oh,
recommendation.
yeah. So it's about a Korean American woman who recently lost her mother. And I feel like even though my family is from a different culture, my heritage is India. Both my grandparents are immigrants, and the book still really resonated with me. I feel like it captures a mix of love, lost identity in a way that still feels very real and relatable in the book. And it makes me want to connect more with my own Indian
Mm.
culture, whether that means stopping by Indian grocery stores or cooking the foods I grow up with, or just finding small ways to keep those traditions and parts of my culture alive. Yeah, and I feel like it's a really good book. It's a memoir, so I really enjoyed reading it.
I'm definitely going to look that up on your recommendations. And I like your perspective on keeping your heritage alive. I mean, for my generation, their parents or grandparents, whatever, they did, for the most part, did not keep alive a lot of their customs they wanted to assimilate as quickly as possible. And then I think it took two or three generations for people to say, I love that. I want to do more of what Nani did or, what so and so. And, uh, I will say I did not grow up with Indian food, but I absolutely adore it now. And coming from the world of food and drink, I just tip my hat to y'all because I think that has to be like a cultural memory, that you stir up. You have to have it in you to be able to use all of those spices and in such a vast country, it's not one, you know, like one cuisine or something like that. So good for you that you do that. I hate to say it because we're coming up on, the time here, but I'm going to ask you two last things. One is what continues to inspire you?
Yeah, sure. I feel like the woman in my book really inspire me. Um, they really motivate me because I think I already mentioned this, but they don't really fit the narrow stereotypical idea of what an American woman is supposed to look like. Like, for example, this woman, Tony Bradinger, is a she works in fashion and she's also a race car driver. And I feel like that is those are just so opposite career choices, but she's still able to do both of them. And I feel like that's just so like incredibly inspiring because yeah, it just shows that there's so many ways you can be successful.
Yeah, you don't have to fit a certain mold
More.
or get on a track and then that's all you do, breaking out. Yeah, people have a, sort of a kaleidoscope or a spectrum of interests and desires. So yeah, why not, kind of pursue it. So for those of you that want to follow Meera on Instagram, you have that's it at Novel Futures. How I found her finally on LinkedIn. So she's there. And again, if you want to donate, you can go to her website and you have that. So is there any last things that I have not asked you or that you've talked about that you want to share with others about?
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I would just say to everyone watching this, I feel like even if it's not literacy, I feel like everyone has a passion and you should really just try and go after it and see if you can make a difference in your community, even if it's small. Novel Future started out really small. It's still pretty local, but I feel like it's so fulfilling. So if you can find anything like that in your own lives, I would definitely recommend going after it.
Again, very good pearls of wisdom from someone who's, I can see, has contributed so much. So, at a time when we're celebrating Thanksgiving, it's truly, as I say, an American holiday, and we're giving thanks. And I give thanks to you for doing this interview and for the work that you're doing with literacy and writing and reading. So, I wish you and your family and everybody that's watching a really terrific Thanksgiving holiday.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was so wonderful to talk to you about novel features.
Thank you. The pleasure is all ours. Cheers. We're going to go.